So while the diagram below represents a printed poster, the rectangle ABCD is the part on which the text is printed. This shaded area ABCD is 432 centimeters squared, and the length of AD is X centimeters. ABCD is 4 centimeters from the left and right edges of the page, and 3 centimeters from the top and bottom of the page. And there's actually another way in which they could have said the last sentence. Well, they could have said the top and bottom margins of the page are each 3 centimeters, and the left and right margins are each 4 centimeters. So you need to know those two languages. And then the first question says, please show that the total area of the page is given by this function. And after you have successfully done that, please determine the value of x such that the total area is a minimum. Now, let's say for whatever reason in the exam, it was very difficult for you to do 9.1. You can afford to lose marks in 9.2 as well, because you now know that the area function is given by this. So you use that function in order to do 9.2. Right. Well, in this case, it's not difficult for you in the exam, which is why you're going to be able to show that the area is that. So let's do that. Okay, fine. So this is a nice diagram that I've redrawn for myself. And this is what we are going to say. Remember, we are trying to find the area of the page. And what is the page? It's just the pink rectangle. And how do we find the area of this rectangle? Well, it's very easy. We need to know the length of the rectangle itself, as well as the breadth of the rectangle itself, right? Okay, fine. So here we can easily define the length of this rectangle. What is this length going to be? Well, think of it. In order for you to get the total length, that's if you take 4 centimeters and you add it to the length of AD, which is X, and you also add it to the length of, no, it's not the length of something. It's the right margin, which is 4 centimeters. So you have 4 plus X plus 4, which is just going to be X plus 8 centimeters. That is the length of the rectangle itself. Now, what about for the breadth? Well, in order for you to find the breadth, that's if you take 3 centimeters and you add it to AB or to DC, and you also add it to 3 centimeters, right? But then here we can see that it's a little bit nasty because now we'll be introducing DC, or rather AB, right? No, we don't want to work with AB and DC. We want to work with X and Y. So what are we going to do? The first thing that we tell them is to let AB to be equal to Y, to simplify our mathematics, right? Right. So in other words, if AB is Y, then it stands to reason that the breadth of this rectangle, it's just going to be Y plus 6. And then you say centimeters. Do you see that? So now we can come and say the length there, or rather the breadth is Y. So then what is the area of the big rectangle? Well, it's going to be length multiplied by breadth. So the length is X plus 8, and the breadth is Y plus 6. But then you can see that this is not the answer that they asked you to show. Why? It's because the area function is actually a function of X. It's A of X, right? And here we can see that we have Y we don't want to have a y there. We have to eliminate this y. So the question is, how do we eliminate this y? Well, we need to find another equation whereby we can express y in terms of x and then substitute it into this area of the big rectangle. Now the question is, how do we do that? Well, it's easy. Remember that we are given the area of this blue rectangle, right? They said the area is 432 centimeters squared. But the question is, how do we find the area of ABCD? Well, it's easy. We just take the length and multiply it by the breadth. But the question is, what is the value of this area? Well, the value of the area is 432, which is equal to xy. So if you make y the subject, then you simply get 432 and you divide this by x, right? Okay. So this therefore means, maybe I can write it here. Yeah, this therefore means the area in terms of x is just going to be x plus 8 multiplied by y, which is now 432 over x, and then we say plus 6. But of course, it's still not in the form that they are asking from us. So we need to apply the FOIL method in this case, right? So we say this one by that, this one by that, this one by that, and this one by that. So what do we get? Well, x times this thing, the x's will cancel out. So you get a solid 432. And here you get 6x. And how much do you get when you say 8 times 432? Well, you simply get 3456 divided by x. All right? Okay. And then you say, well, 8 by 6, it's a nice 48. And then you collect your like terms. So what do you say? Well, this one goes alone, as well as this one. So when you say 432 plus 48, well, you simply get 480. And you have actually done exactly what they asked you to do. So they are very happy. And now you have your full 3 marks. That is the area. So now that we have our area function, then the next thing we need to do is to minimize this area. So we understand that before we can differentiate the function, we need to respect one of the rules of differentiation, which you will later learn that it's actually called the power rule. So the power rule says you cannot differentiate for as long as the variable you are differentiating with respect to is in the denominator. Right. And so now you can find the derivative of your function. So for this one, you get negative 3456 x to the negative 2. And then you say plus 6 because this constant is going to die. And after finding the derivative of your function, you're going to equate it to 0. And then writing this in positive exponential form, well, it's just going to be negative 3456 over x squared. And then you say plus 6, right? And then you take this one to the left-hand side. It becomes positive. So in other words, it's like you are having something like this, right? And then what do you say from this point? Well, you simply cross multiply numerator by denominator, numerator by denominator. So you get 6x squared, which is equal to 3456. And if you divide both sides by 6, well, you find that your x squared will be 576. And if you find the square root on both sides, you find that the value of x will simply be 24 centimeters. So this is the value of x for which the area will be a minimum. And remember, you can't say it's going to be plus or minus 24, right? Because when you find the square root, it's supposed to be plus or minus 24. It can be negative. Imagine saying the length of this rectangle is negative 24 centimeters. So, yeah, this is how it's supposed to be, guys. I hope it makes sense, but if you have a question to ask, please feel free to ask in the comment section, and I'll make sure that I respond to your question. But thank you so much for watching.